It's the Brad and John Show.
The Brad and John Show for Wednesday, April 23rd. This is the C block, which means we start right around 7:40. Okay, previous block, we're talking about Mattress Mack. You don't know who he is. He runs furniture stores down in Houston, Texas, I believe, called Gallery Furniture. Okay, interesting guy. He came to light nationally during one of the hurricanes that sort of beat the daylights out of Houston. And when a lot of people, their houses were flooded, some of the people lost their houses. They're just gone, torn away by the hurricane. He invited them to come to his stores and sleep and live at his stores. And people literally showed up at his stores and picked out a bed, and that's where they stayed for a while until things got better. Okay? Interesting guy. He's up there in years. He's probably not as old as me. I would say he's probably maybe late 70s, early 80s. I'm 89. And he's put on a group of videos, which are very fascinating. And he chronicles the demise of the American furniture business. And what's interesting about it is, at first, I didn't realize what he was talking about. He kept blaming the MBAs. And I thought that was like some business. But then I thought to myself, okay, I know what he's saying. MBA, Masters of Business Administration. And he chronicles company after company after company that essentially was a very successful American furniture company until, guess what happened, John?
Let's see. You're going to blame it on Wall Street types.
Yes. They came.
Oh, yeah. Boy, we got to besmirch capitalism. Let me guess. Everybody should go to their neighborhood mattress store and waste time talking to a salesman and burn hours looking at a bed and then have to fuss with delivery, instead of going somewhere easy where you can order your mattress online and have it on your doorstep the next day.
Well, no.
Is that right?
No, that's...
And we should blame Mattress Firm and other companies that have taken advantage of economies by scale and put old, decrepit bums who can't keep up out of business. Is that right, Brad?
No. His point was that these companies were successful in the United States, and then a lot of them were bought by hedge funds and things like that, aggregators.
Nice, yeah, that squeeze the profit out of it. That's awesome.
Right, and then they ran them out of business. He talks about and he chronicles all these different places. Okay, and the interesting part of it is that he has a quote in here which I found very interesting. Okay, you ready for this? He says this many times: "Jobs bring purpose and meaning to life." And he said that these towns, especially in North Carolina and other parts of the country, that were decimated by the fact that once upon a time, very bustling areas of manufacturing of furniture and upholstery and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, all these companies started getting bought out by the big Wall Street firms, the hedge funds, consolidated. They moved all the production offshore, and all of a sudden, these factories were shuttered, and nobody had jobs anymore. And talks about how it used to be, and I know people in this industry that complain about this as well too, that most of your furniture now is made in China. Matter of fact, I read this interesting article that talked about, I think we talked about this one time before, they gave like the top 10 volume shippers, not like pieces of furniture, but in other words, how much volume in cargo containers, shipping containers, was taken up. And that's a big thing in shipping, is that it's not necessarily the weight, it's the volume of something. In other words, if you have a big couch or something,
the size of it, sure, we
right,
get it.
It may take up X amount. And like in the top 10 volume shippers in the United States is Bob's Discount Furniture, which just recently, within the last like 8, 9, 10 years, came in the St. Louis area, which is primarily an East Coast firm. And they're like in the top 10 because almost everything they sell is made in China. So Mattress Mack goes on to chronicle this, and it was very compelling. And what's interesting is he brags about the fact that he sells all American furniture and mattresses in his store. All the mattresses, he says where they came from. There's a Sealy plant in Texas, and the reason that the Sealy Mattress Company is called Sealy Mattress Company is it started in Sealy, Texas. Did you know that?
No, I had no idea. I'm not up on my Sealy history.
Making fun of me again. Okay, he's essentially saying, look, it's one thing to, be price conscious. It's another thing to have a larger view of the world. And I think the interesting part that this whole thing brings up with Trump and the tariffs and stuff like that is the Chinese people who are now upset with us have had this essentially unbridled access into our country, and essentially they've destroyed many cities. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. Washington, Missouri. I could take you through Washington. I say, okay, here's an old international shoe company plant. There's a couple of them still there that are all decrepit and closed down the whole bit. One of them right there on East 5th Street's been turned into an apartment complex. Look at this one right here. This was an old shoe factory. This is an old shoe factory. This is an old shoe factory. You go to a lot of the cities. St. Clair had a bunch of old shoe factories, International Shoe, Brown Shoe, places like that, okay? Nobody makes footwear in the United States anymore. Nobody. Now.
Yeah. I mean, and so that's a good sign of progress, right? We can get it made cheaper elsewhere, and then we can import it, and that's good news for folks that want cheaper footwear, right? But at a better price. And if American companies can't compete, then the hell with American companies, right? That's what you're saying, right, Brad?
No, John.
Other than sitting around and saying, remember when shoes were produced, other than old people complaining about the way things used to be, what are we supposed to do about it, Brad? Other than say, wow, the economy is really progressing.
John,
I'm not criticizing you, Brad. I'm just saying, like what's the action item other than sitting around and complaining about how things used to be great?
Do I need to give you my P-51 Mustang talk again? Is that what?
Yeah, you do. And tell me how the runways are named out of Lambert too. Hey, also tell me how we can help support KBDZ, Brad. Because I heard we need to support our local radio stations. I read that on Twitter yesterday.
We do. And if some people, they're going to say, if you're going to talk the talk or walk the walk, whatever the hell it is. Okay. A friend of mine got contacted by the KBDZ advertising department. And this friend of mine sent me their proposal, which is actually it wasn't their proposal, it was their one-pager, which I thought was very well done, and I put it up on my Facebook page. The idea being is, if I'm going to say we need to promote the competitive radio stations, I'm doing that. And I actually had a couple people call me and go like, did you buy that station? I go, nope. And the next question was, then why are you promoting it? I go, you know what?
Well, there you go, Brad, because you're doing the right thing, right?
Miracle on 34th Street, John. Miracle on 34th Street. I'm supporting a local radio station, a locally owned and operated radio station.
And I just went to Radio Locator, and it's a shame we can't hear it in the St. Louis area. I have the map of where their signal goes. But if you were in the southeast part of the state, we have a lot of people from southeast Missouri, Brad, I know, that listen to our show. And if you're down there around Perryville, St. John, Festus, even DeSoto, you can hear this. Is it 93.1?
It is, John. But alas, you're missing something.
Oh, what am I missing, Brad?
They rented the translator from K-Wolf, and they're now on 101.7, and they have a good signal into the Westplex.
Oh, why isn't that on their one-pager?
I don't know. Quite honestly,
well, they should probably update it.
I would agree with you. I was sort of surprised that it wasn't on there, about the fact that they are now on 93.1 or 93.1 and 101.7 in the Westplex. And see, the interesting thing about this is what they are doing. And I found this fascinating because the whole sales piece actually is talking about the boomers got money. Matter of fact, and it's funny, when I read this thing, I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm going to talk to John about this. You're the one that brought it up. I didn't. But the thing, here, let me bring it up, which I thought was fascinating because their whole pitch is about why you should buy their station. And where'd it go? Okay, here it is right now.
KBDZ.
Okay, it says the baby boomer generation is often hailed as one of the luckiest generations in history. Heck, we even got to see the Beatles live. 94% of all boomers, people 55 plus, listen to the radio at least once a day. Boomers have more disposable income than any other age group by far. Why? The kids moved out, mortgages are paid off, wise investments made in Wall Street years ago. What do boomers want to hear? Their music and not just the same songs over and over and over. And it talks about the fact that the boomers, and see, this is the problem in the advertising business in general. For the most part, most of your advertisers, the people, the agencies and the people buying advertising, they want adults 25-54. Because typically within 25-54 demographic, you get married, you have kids, you
You're
buy
spending
houses.
a lot of money. You're taking on debt, that buying stuff you don't need. You're
Right.
a great consumer.
You have cars, you go on vacations and things like that. And once you get to like 55 plus, you don't have any money anymore. You don't spend any money, which is sort of interesting because they don't realize how much money is being spent on pickleball. But that's a whole nother story. But
hey, they have a great. I'm sorry to interrupt, Brad, but they have a great website too. It's at classicrock931.com, and on that website, of course, they don't have it dated. It's by admin 931. They have the news about expanding into the Westplex area at 101.7 FM.
See, I know that stuff. But to me, the problem is I've tried to go to their website and stream the station. For some reason, I can never get it to work. I don't know what's going on with that. But anyway, so I am promoting another radio station that I don't own. And the interesting part of this is that I have reached out to Randy Raley on 3 separate occasions, and he's never called me back. So I go, okay, whatever, dude. I'm trying to help you out a little bit. But even though he won't call me back, I'm just going to say, okay, I'm going to help you out.
And that's good. And Brad, I'm glad you mentioned that because I think this is instructive to young women and young men who listen to our station. When you do something kind for the greater good, before you do it, you have to think, am I expecting the person that I'm doing the service for to actually take a moment and say thank you? And Brad, by the way, I'm not suggesting that that's what you're doing at all. But as a lesson for young men and young women, it's the idea of a covert contract. If I do this for someone, am I expecting that Randy Raley will take 60 seconds and say, hey, that was a kind and generous thing to do. Thank you. Because if you are expecting that, then you're going to be disappointed. And how will you feel setting yourself up for disappointment? Again, Brad, I'm not talking about you in this regard, but it's an example of when you do something for the greater good, you have to do it. If you're not doing it purely for the greater good, if you're thinking that people are going to applaud you or say, what a great guy John is for linking to that other radio station, people aren't going to say thank you. They're wrapped up in their own life. So you can't do it so that people pat you on the back and say, what a man you are. You have to do it for the greater good.
John, you're missing one aspect of this is I'm not
Brad?
I'm not doing it to make myself feel good. I'm making myself to try to make some money because what I'm trying to reach out to him was saying, hey man, let's work together and do like a sales package where you and I will sell each other's radio station advertising.
Wouldn't that be great, Brad?
But see, that's the reason I called him because he's talking about, I need salespeople. Matter of fact, it's sort of funny because in one of his posts, he says, I've got involved. He's the morning guy and he's a DJ, been on radio a long time, maybe even actually longer than me, but he's older than me. I think he's like 96 or something like that. But he's older than the Pope. And his body's not being paraded about around Rome right now, but that's a whole other story. But the idea being is instead of trying to whack each other over the head, sell with us. In other words, sell a package. Hey, you want women? We got them. And here's the difference. You want women? We got them with Westplex 107.1. You want men? We got them with Classic Rock 93.1. Because here we go again. Keishi and the classic rock stations typically have a male appeal. For whatever reason, women don't usually get into classic rock. I'm not saying that there aren't women that listen to Keishi or KBDZ or whatever. It's just not the typical. Women are typically at KZK, Y98, stations like that. And they're not, for the most part, at 97.1 or the Refugee station at 94.1 or our Tracy station at 93.3. There aren't a lot of women that listen to that. It's mainly dudes. And if you want dudettes, and let's be honest, the dudettes have all the money. The women have taken over the reins of the country. The women rule the country right now. There are more. Somebody gave me some statistic.
Yeah, we know the college stats, and also, Brad, women make almost all of the domestic consumer product. All CPG stuff is generally purchased by women. And men don't make the decision on what kind of Hostess cupcakes to buy. It's bought by women. Now, if the woman eats too many Hostess cupcakes, probably her man's going to leave, but that's an entirely different story. Well, he does have on here, Brad, an advertisement. Now, does he sell ads at is he offering salespeople can people actually make money selling ads for him, or does he do like a holler for $1 gimmick or have like an embarrassingly low price point that no one could ever make a living selling ads for him?
Thanks, John. I detect a little bit.
No, that has nothing to do with you, Brad.
Yeah,
like
right.
if you went to work selling ads for Randy, could you actually make a few dollars?
I don't
Or
know.
would you sell a $300 package and make $30 commission?
He won't call me back, so how do I know? I don't know what they're selling. See, it always reminds me of my ex-neighbor who became a salesperson. And this is actually sort of an interesting story. He became a salesperson because he went bowling. He was in college, and I can't remember what city he was in, and he talked about the fact that he went to bowling. If you remember the old days of bowling, the score sheets had ads on them. Do you remember this, John? You remember going bowling in the old days? Your score sheets, they'd give you like instead of.
Do you remember going bowling? Yeah, I do.
Right, and they would give you they would rip it off. It was like a big tablet of score sheets that were printed up, and you would sit at the little table there at the bowling lanes, and you would physically write your score with a pencil and put the X's and the spare marks and all that kind of stuff in. Anyway, my neighbor told me the story that his buddies and him used to go bowling like once a week, whatever college town they were in, and one of the ads said, sell ads on this bowling sheet, and it gave a phone number. So he called up the guy and said, hey, I saw your thing. I was at the bowling alley. I'm interested in helping you sell ads. And the guy says, I'm making it very attractive to you. I'm giving you 50% commission. You sell me $1, you sell $1 of advertising, you keep 50 cents, I get 50 cents. And he said, this is almost too good to be true. So he went out and he sold the crap out of this and made a lot of money. And
that's a pretty fair commission. Like, don't you think 50%, Brad? Like, who's going to sell a $400 ad package just to get like $60, you know?
Well, I don't know if you sell enough of them.
Yeah.
But anyway,
that's good to see that this guy's actually doing something. Hey, Brad, can I make fun of you for one thing?
Yeah, go ahead. You always do.
I reached out to Randy Raley and I asked him for a coverage map because I had candidates that want to advertise.
Yeah.
He sent me a map that had a circle highlighted on it and said, I don't know, we think it's about this. So then I said, thanks, I won't send this to professional campaign consultants. Thanks, Randy.
Well, here's the problem. He's not going to have too many advertisers who are going to buy, advertising from him from political, because they're all going to be in 97.1. That's, where they all go, because of the fact that we all know that especially, see, that's the thing that gets me to the point where like, okay, you want to reach men who vote? Yeah. But guess what? Well, I think right now the demographics that more women than men vote. And the thing I was going to say before you threw one of your little barbs at me, and not one of the exchanging barbs that Megan Green and who's the other?
They exchange barbs. She prefers to be called Barbara, but sometimes they call her Barb.
Okay, one of the interesting things someone told me the other day that the most common person entering into the mortgage market, in other words, to buy a house now, is a single woman. There are more single women buying houses than married couples right now. And matter of fact, Trump came out, was it yesterday, where did you hear the thing where he's going to say, he's going to try to make it to the point where we talked about this in Romania, was it a couple weeks ago? We talked about the fact that
this is one of Camelia Peterson's favorite points. You got to get her to weigh in on this. She's a big advocate, I think, of this. Right? I think I'm intentionally misrepresenting what she said, but go ahead. What is the proposal for fertility and encouraging people to have kids, Brad?
$5,000 a kid. Wasn't that what he said? Trump's going to offer $5,000.
I think that's the magic number, because if it's 4,900, people aren't going to want to copulate.
Right.
But once you get it right at 5,000, people get in the copulation mood, Brad. It's a very clear, bright line there.
And the interesting
thing, like the clear, bright line of looking at a coverage map for a station. You get a highlighter and you circle it and you say, I don't know, I guess it's this.
And the interesting thing about that is that Randy Raley, if he has a kid with somebody, he'll split the $5,000 with you. That was the interesting thing about it.
Oh, is that right?
That's what he's going to do. He's going to give you 50% commission if you have a kid. Hey, I mean, see, for a moment, let's think about this for a minute. Okay, if they do that, then there would be some enterprising young men who would start advertising, hey, I'll be happy to inseminate you if you split the $5,000 with me. Think about that. The guy could be, having sex all over town, and when the women, get pregnant, and he gets $2,500 for each kid he created. What? I mean, come on, what a deal.
Brad, I'd love to stay in chat, but someone just gave me a great business model. You think I could get to Romania by tonight?
Yeah, he's paying $30,000 a kid. Wasn't it $30,000 a kid?
I don't know. It's not enough.
because the birth rate is negative, because women don't want to be married anymore. Women don't want to have anything to do with men anymore. And the women who aren't now lesbians are just saying, I don't want to touch a man. I don't want to have a man near me. I don't need a man in my life. I've got whatever, right?
I don't know. I just put a bid in on Becky Queen of Carpet's Louboutins, Brad, and I hope to see these up by my ears by 10 p.m.
John, say goodbye.
See you tomorrow, Brad.